Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
Hey fellas.
Hey.
How y'all doing?
Good.
So I had seen this post and it said, you can't hate yourself into a version of yourself that you love. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is so true. I'll tell you my story in a second, but before I tell you that, I'll tell you about, I'm using the word hate because that's the word they use, and most people don't think of themselves as hating themselves, but there are parts of us that we kind of hate. And like so many times we'll be like, I don't like this thing about me and I got to change it.
Right.
And so you're so busy not liking that part, and trying to change it, it makes it harder than it needs to be, because every time we're saying we don't like it, we're adding resistance into the mix. But I was listening to my uncle talk, because he always says, my left side is weak, my left side is weak, my left side is weak, my left side is weak. And so when he's saying that, I'm thinking to myself, like, your body is your best friend. Like, there is nothing that's closer to you than your body, right? And so if you tell your body it's weak, you know what your body's going to say?
Weak.
Okay. Okay. So if you're like, okay, my body is unattractive, your body's like, okay. If you tell yourself my body is sick, your body's like, okay, that's what we doing. Okay.
I was just saying earlier, I was tired. My body. Okay.
Do y'all have any commentary though on you cannot hate yourself into a version of yourself that you love?
Yeah, I think that that's a great quote, because it's just so true. I don't see a world where I'm going to be like, all right, you know what I need to do? Just keep telling myself all the things I don't like about myself, and that's what's going to make it better. Like, all that does is just make me feel like, oh, dang, like, I really am 5'4", huh? So I definitely agree that you can't hate yourself into loving the things that you want to change about yourself. Because also I think that I remember growing up, I used to be so frustrated being left-handed, and because I was the only left-handed person who I was ever really having any encounters with. And I used to be like, man, being left-handed is just so difficult, because I can't even write right. Whenever they go to teach me how to write, everybody's trying to teach me backwards. You gotta flip the paper this way. I used to feel like it was such a challenge. And now, I look at life and I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I'm left-handed, because it's just, now whenever you tell somebody you're left-handed, it's like, oh, so you're very creative. That's all these great qualities. I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. I never thought about that all the time I was being upset about being left-handed, though. So I think that is super true.
Yeah, I can say that I have a lot of people that I'm around that can articulate themselves and their feelings beautifully, right? And then I see it as to where, I have so much on my mind that I want to express, but I used to dislike the fact that I couldn't articulate it the way that everybody else can articulate themselves, right? So I'm like, man, I just can't stand that about myself, right? Yet they looking at me the whole time like, shoot, you articulate yourself beautifully, So something that I had to look at and be like, you know what? Well, if I keep telling myself that I can't articulate myself the way that I think I can, then apparently I can't. So I got used to just, watching what I say about myself, so that way I can put myself in the space of seeing myself. You got it. You articulating yourself well. So
that quote just makes me think about, to piggyback off what y'all saying, this is stuff we tell ourselves. and like how harsh we can be with ourselves. And then it makes me think like, well, where have I ever changed about myself by telling myself negative things?
Right.
So yeah, that quote makes me think of that.
But you know, it's so easy to criticize yourself instead of talking positive of yourself. And something I've learned that I need to put more in practice now is that every day, you know, just looking in the mirror and looking at myself and tell myself all the beautiful things that I love about myself, versus how you look in the mirror and in a second you can pinpoint 5-10 things that's wrong with you, you know. So something to practice to get you out of that hating yourself, you know.
Imagine.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, imagine if we talked to a child the way we talk to ourselves.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just thinking about what you're saying, like just thinking about how easy it is to just be harsh on ourselves and be our worst critic. And I feel like it's just as easy to love on ourselves that same way with that much effort and that effortlessly. Because I think about like, who gonna tell me exactly what I want to hear to hype me up better than me? Like seriously, I know exactly what I want to hear and what I want to tell myself to make me feel, you know, good. Like I can look in the mirror and hype myself up, have me ready to do anything. So it's like just as easy as we can talk down on ourselves, we can flip that and love on ourselves in an instant, just like that.
That's true.
And I think that that's super key and important too, because like you said earlier, like what have you ever changed about yourself for the better by being negative about it? And it's like, you know, I think that the more that you start pouring into yourself and pouring that love into yourself is when you start to feel those things, and then you start to, you know, you don't even see those things that you were like, oh, this is a flaw. Like now you're so caught up in all the greatness that you are that it's like, dog, I'm not even thinking about that little freckle on my left cheek because this whole face is just a masterpiece. Like, so I think that you definitely want to pour in as much love on yourself as possible, because when you do that, you have enough to give out as well. And
And then just think about it, life too. I can't think of nothing nothing that got better with me, like just hating it or like just like it changed because it got to a boiling point and it popped. But it didn't change for the better just because I was hating it. So I think about that as well too. Like what has changed from me hating it? The only time I can think of something changing is by me loving on it, or me appreciating it, or me finding something new to appreciate about it.
And for me, I know my change has always been a perspective change. And so I literally did hate myself, everything about myself. But it took me changing my perspective and realizing that I was just more than this physical body. Like I wasn't able to, like, you know, you're saying pour love into yourself. Like I couldn't do that. But once I realized, wait a minute, I'm more than this physical body. Like I'm connected to the source of all that exists. And like with that shift in my reality, then I'm like, oh, like I'm everything now. I'm it now. I'm good enough now. I'm part of God, you know. And that was the thing that changed. But it wasn't. Basically, a lot of times we think something outside of us has to change first, and then you change. But really, you have to change first, and then the thing outside of you will change. And so, like, for me, it's always been preceded by a perspective shift. That I changed my perspective, and then everything in the world changes around me.
So, for me, I would say, when I was talking about like me articulating myself, and I looked at others as to where they were better, you know, with articulating themselves and expressing their emotions. My thing was I used to compare myself to other people, and I think when I shift my perspective on that and realize like you're not in competition with nobody, you know, and taking myself away from comparing myself to others, thinking that people are better than me, and not realizing that we all are part of the same, you know, source. When I shift that perspective, then it was like, gotcha. Like, the light bulb went off. So I think for some people, you know, I mean, I know for myself, that's possibly one of many things that if we take away the comparison and thinking that others are better than you in certain areas, or they look more beautiful or more handsome than you, if you take away that comparison, I think that will really put you back in place of alignment with knowing that you already it.
Just to speak on that comparison thing too, is like if all four of us looked at each other, we can all find something different. And so I feel like if we sitting here looking at each other like, all right, what you don't have and I want it, then I hate that about myself or whatever.
Right.
But really you can look at it like, hey, we all in here are connected. So if you can do it or if you can have it, then I can do it as well. I got the ability to create that. What I feel I don't have and I want, we can create it. But just looking at comparison, like, oh, you have it and I don't, and I don't know how to get it, so dang, I hate that I don't know how to do that. Oh, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's crazy too, because sometimes the thing that you may hate about yourself, somebody else may love it. And the whole time you sit back, you criticizing yourself, and somebody else like, what are you talking about? I don't even see what you see, you know?
I think that that's always so key too, and always so funny. Like I remember going through like a long period of life, like, you know, I'm just not a great communicator. Like I don't communicate well. I literally used to say these things, and it's so ironic to think now because all I did didn't change anything, but my mindset of, I just started telling myself like, no, I'm a master communicator. Like I remember when I started telling everybody like, no, I'm a master communicator. Like that's my skill. Like I can connect with people and communicate well at a different level. And literally that just became the story that everybody started attaching to me as well. It's like, no, like he really good at communicating. Like, you know, he really get his thoughts off well. But all it took was me changing the way I was even perceiving and thinking about it, because there was nothing, I was never bad at it. I was only just being very critical on myself. And I think that is exactly what we're talking about here, which is the idea of I'm gonna make it better by just hating on it just didn't work. It was like, you know, when I embraced like, no, this is who I am, is when it became that.
That's funny that you say that, because I was just reading, or I might have been listening to something the other day, and they were saying, like, if you take a person, two people who are, I guess, weaning themselves off drugs or whatever, and so if one person says, I'm trying to stop using drugs, and the other person says, I don't use drugs, like just the difference in that. And I was like, oh, that is so true, because I remember years ago when I first stopped eating sugar.
Right.
And so I had no intention on not eating sugar. I was just going to do it just, you know, for a certain amount of time or whatever. And so I had did it for the amount of time that I had wanted to do it, but then it was now easy. And so I just kept on doing it. But I remember consciously changing my thing from I'm trying to not eat sugar to I don't eat sugar. You know, like just totally just changing your identity and just stepping into it, claiming it or whatever, versus hating yourself in the process. And you know, they say like if you resist one thing, you're really resisting everything. So whatever you're saying, like you might be like, oh, I like all these things about myself except for blank.
Right.
Or whatever. And so the moment you throw that resistance into that blank thing, you're slowing the process down on everything around you. And so I know, like for me, which I've mentioned a few times, is like with my weight, like I would, you know, I would just be like, oh, I love my body, and you know, all that. on the one hand, but on the other hand, I'm just like, oh my gosh, where are all these rows of that? You know, why does that look like that? You know, every time I walk past a window and I look at catch my reflection, I'm like, ooh. But then I wonder, you know, like, why can't anything change? But I want anything changed. But I just kept giving it just all that negative feedback, kept telling you ain't cute. And then another thing about hating yourself, and I know we're really talking about you can't hate yourself into a version of yourself that you love, but a lot of times, I'm gonna say all the time, if you're hating yourself, that's gonna be reflected back to you in your environment. So whether it's other people now hating on you for whatever reason, you know, maybe people are trying to take advantage of you, maybe, you know, people are being mean to you, maybe the world is just a harsh place or whatever, and you're just like, I can't understand why people treat people like this. But then when you think about how are you treating yourself, how you're treating yourself is being reflected to you from the outside. And so I guess the main takeaway is stop hating on yourself. Stop hating on yourself. Because it's just not productive. Not only is it, like a lot of times we think, you know, if I beat myself up and hold myself accountable and, you know, then that's the way to do it. And I'm sure we've all done it and have had some type of movement as a result of that, but it never holds. It's not permanent, or else it's going to show its head again in a slightly adjacent spot.
I also had by you saying that, it just made me think of certain areas in my life, and even now, as to where I have learned not to push myself, you know. It's more of, okay, you know, I missed a day at the gym. All right, it's cool, Steve. You know what I'm saying? It's cool, you're aware of it. Tomorrow, we'll get in the gym. You know, at one time, I would sit back and be like, I be in a whole funk just because I missed the gym, you know, and I planned on going, you know, that day. And I think just not beating yourself up and just, you know, just sort of just, I guess, go with the flow, you know, with things. It will be a lot much easier for you.
Yeah, see, and I want to piggyback off of that too, because it is super important to treat yourself with grace and love. Because like I remember moments where I'm like, you know, it'll be an example, just like going to the gym. I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna do this today. And then when I don't do it, I'm like all different kinds of a procrastinator. I was like, look at you, you're just irresponsible. You just, you know, have your life together. Like you started like crazy judgments off of like not going to the gym that one time. And it was like, you know, who wants to feel that way? And I wouldn't enjoy if anybody else spoke to me that way. So why am I doing it to myself like that? And that's when I was like, nah, you know, you really want to pour in and give yourself that grace and like tell yourself a different story even in that moment. Like, all right, you know, you didn't make it to the gym today, but now create a new story and a new narrative that's going to drive you to want to get there tomorrow. But also really love what you did do today as well. Like, I might not have went to the gym because I was just having a great day. Like, why I got to feel bad about a great day because I didn't do that?
It made me think of the saying, like, treat others how you want to be treated, but also treat yourself how you want to be treated.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think we can close with that, really. Treat yourself the way you want to be treated. I think you should coin that one.
Yeah.
Treat yourself the way that you want to be treated. And with that, it's a wrap. So thank you for joining us, guys, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week. Until then, this is Arvette.
And this is Steve.
Teron.
Rodney.
Bye, y'all.